Hi. One second.
I'm inviting everybody in, so just like give me a second. Yes.
Okay.
And we have already audience members joining us. So hello.
Hi.
Hi. So I just want to welcome everybody, all the audience members that are joining us in for this live. We're going to be having a very engaging discussion today. And we already have two of our panelists already here. We're just waiting for the third one. How are the both of you doing today, Suma?
I think great. It's been a good day. A lot of work got done.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy.
Productive day?
Yeah.
Yes. And Aparna, how are you?
Well, I'm actually technically on holiday in London, so I'm taking some time out for this.
Fantastic. Already, I think we're going to talk about that a lot more in terms of what vacation looks like. Right. So we're just waiting for Tarun to join in. For everybody who's coming in, the audience members, we are going to be talking about looking beyond 9 to 5. So we're going to be talking a lot about workplace and mental health and what well-being looks like in the workplace. So if you have any comments, any ideas, any questions, feel free to use the comment box below and just keep sharing them with us, and we'll definitely try to address them during the live. For those of you who don't already know us, we're the Mood Space. We're an online counseling platform, and we provide therapy services to South Asians globally. And because we're in the mental health field, we realize the importance of physical health, mental health, and how important it is as important as physical health, really. And today we're really trying to understand one of the factors that contributes to our mental well-being, which is workplace, our environment, the workplace culture that we're in. And so for that, we have invited a very esteemed guest today. We have Miss Suma, we have Miss Aparna here, and I'm just sort of waiting for Tarun. Tarun, if you're here, just like send a wave so that I can invite you in. Well, the invite is sort of sent. I hope he joins soon.
He's joined.
Yeah, he's joined.
Okay. I don't see him though.
I mean, he's
yes,
joined the conversation.
Oh, yes. Tarun, can we have you in the live now? I think I've sent you a request.
Mayor, I've got a hard stop at 3:15 my time, or so in 45 minutes, basically 40 minutes.
Yes. Tarun is also here. Finally, he's joined. Welcome, Tarun. Can you hear us? Can you see us? Okay. It's loading. So what I'll do is I'll quickly introduce the two of you at least. So we have Ms. Suma, who is the CEO of Nisway, which is Asia's first elite HubSpot solutions partner, building products and delivering marketing and tech services. We have Ms. Aparna Piramal Raj, who is a leading columnist at Mint, and she's also an established author. She's written a book on mental health, which is called Chemical Khichdi, how she hacked her own mental health. And Tarun, who's sort of going to join us at some point. I think he's facing technical difficulties. But he's a digital marketer. He's the co-founder of Big Mouth Digital and Media and has worked all across the globe with like multiple clients. Welcome, Tarun. I was just introducing you to our audience.
Thank you so much. How are you doing?
Very well. How are you doing?
Very well. So happy to be here with some amazing folks on the other side. Stalwarts, I would say.
Right. We're all we're also lucky to have you, and we plan to have a very engaging discussion today. So without further ado, I'll just quickly jump into it. We've seen what the pandemic has done to us. It has changed our priorities. It's brought things to the forefront we never did think of. And as employers, I want to understand, especially from Suma and Tarun, like what are the challenges you face because of the pandemic, and now that we've gone into this next normal, what are you looking at when you at your workplace? So, Suma, if you'd like to start.
Okay, I think the biggest luxury we used to have, being offline was that you could look at a person and know that something is off with the person and, you could kya hua, and you could just start a conversation, go down for tea or go for a walk and, talk about it. But now that is like such a big luxury, it's not there anymore for us and it is challenging. And because of now our lives are like just constrained into these little black boxes on the screen, there is like the connection levels have dropped so much. So the whole attempt is always to bring back connection. So that is the other thing that, you need to have that connection now. And I think people who join the workforce, I think they're having a hard time because they don't know how to work really, and they usually come into an office, they look at people, they invite stuff, they shout, they're learning by osmosis and that is not happening and that's going to be a big challenge for all companies going forward, how to tackle that.
Right, because there is no, like you said, there's no personal connect anymore. We're just operating from the space of our own home. So fitting in and getting the sense of teamwork, I feel like that is something that's a big challenge.
Belonging. Also
Yes.
belonging, right?
Belonging, yes. Tarun, what about you? What challenge? Yes, right.
So I think, initially when everything kind of came work from home, we were obviously facing a little issues in, connecting with each other, kind of getting our ideas because, when you're working in an agency, you got to work together, get an idea, get a campaign together. Otherwise, you would just do in a physical setting, you would brainstorm, you write something on the whiteboard and, people together would come up with something or the other and it'll frame into a campaign.
Right.
Gradually, I think a lot of people eventually had different things to take care of. A lot of people kind of moved ahead. So when new people started coming in, it became a little more difficult because with older lot, they were already connected offline. So I think what we did was we did start our office again in 2020. We started with the hybrid model. Then again, 2021 happened. Again, we had to pause it. So what I think the biggest challenge was to bond people. I think that was one thing which I think couldn't happen. But hopefully, we could again kickstart our office back in November 2021. I think the team working online and offline, they could feel the difference. Like the offline team was so very well bonded. And they couldn't be there because they were in different cities. They had their own, limitations, I would say. But I think bonding is one thing which can happen, like you said, only offline, right? And I think going forward, even if you are a completely, let's say, work from home company, there has to be multiple ways to get to meet the team. Something, something for the team. That's what I feel.
Right. Right. So I think both of you have mentioned this concept of belonging, of bonding with the team. And Aparna, you've been working in, with leadership in business and also mental well-being. So how important is this bonding in the workplace and how does it affect the work culture and well-being of the employees?
Well, I think it's critical. I would agree with whatever has been said, that I think the kind of outcomes that you get when you're together and you have a sense of belonging are really huge. The stats actually when it comes to issues like workplace stress and anxiety and depression are a lot higher than one might expect. That actually 1 out of 2 people are experiencing issues related to depression and anxiety. People, a very high percentage of office workers experience some amount of stress at least once a week. So I think this is a good time to really think about how do you keep a workplace that is dynamic, is competitive, is market facing, but also is one that has that sense of belonging, connection, that has a sense of empathy in the organization. That you can actually manage these two forces which might seem contradictory to each other.
Right. So, like she said, we've also seen this in my when clients come in and talk to me about workplaces. I think the increase that has come is that I do not belong. I do not connect with my team members. One team member is in another city, I am here, and we have to work online, and we don't know how to do that. We don't understand each other's language. and that I believe has become a barrier now. So I want to understand, how are you tackling this barrier? Knowing that it's affecting your employees' mental well-being, what are the ways that you have used to tackle this? So Suma, what is Nisve doing?
So obviously we got in mood space. Obviously, I mean that was like a no-brainer. I think it was also top-driven because one of the co-founders was going through depression. So he felt that if I'm going through, I don't know what the others are going through. So we need to get some help. So obviously look for help. That is definitely because we can do so much. We can only be this much empathetic, or we are not geared for solving those problems. So so bringing in professionals is definitely a must. We also do, weekly connects. So, company-wide, so we will bring in, it's not just fun activities, but we will also have actual discussions on what is going wrong within the company. Maybe they are not feeling safe, they haven't been, they are feeling any challenge or, related to their learning or whatever. We talk about that in our weekly connects. And I think a lot more conversations. How do you bring in even more conversations, whether at one-to-one level, one to a few level, many level? How can you bring in those conversations? So those are what we are trying to do. Other than, okay, we will now have offsites and, all of those things will come into play on a daily basis, and you have a little more meaningful conversation with another person. How can you bring that in? That's the focus for us.
Right. So you're encouraging more conversation in any way possible, meaningful conversation.
Yeah.
Right. And Tarun, what's happening on your end? How are you tackling these barriers?
So we actually did take a very conscious call, and we, started doing this one thing in December 2020, which was called Wisdom Wednesdays. Now, what this specific thing was, which it was not specifically for mental health, it was specifically for, getting them to learn something new on a daily basis. Not by people who are, let's say, very big stalwarts, or not by the team people. It was just open for all, whoever wanted to volunteer. So initially we had people from the team itself, and then gradually I got a lot of people from different connections that I had in the industry. And it was like that was the only half an hour to 1 hour where people were really not thinking about work, kind of bonding with each other. And I think more than anything, I feel that kind of bonded the team all together. Number one. Number two, after a few months, we also decided to take another call, which was we told team that you can take a mental health leave, no questions asked, also whatsoever. So if you type in an email that today I'm not really at my best, I need a leave, we will not ask you any questions. As simple as that. And I think that was one move which I personally feel was a very important move, because you always keep asking why can you not report to work, and sometimes you just understand that they are also human, you are also human. So if you don't feel like working a certain day, they might also not. And apart from that, I think like Suma mentioned, we also try to encourage a lot of open conversations is what we were trying to do. So every morning there used to be like a catch-up call. It used to never start with work. It used to always start with what did you do yesterday, how is it going, and so on and so forth. Apart from that, we made sure that we celebrate big, small, whatever occasions we could with the team. Doing some small, online mix, online come online, online come offline pizza activities, to sending a cake across to them on their birthdays, or just celebrating small things, small wins and victories. And I think one more thing that we did was very important, that we got a partner on board who they could just reach out to and then just call them and kind of discuss whatever they wish to. The first priority was the HR, because he was obviously their first year. But the second, if they really want somebody else, third person, then we did that also. So multiple things kind of led to them feeling much better and much more eased off at work.
Right. So a lot of thought has been put into all these efforts that you've made, and I really want to understand from Aparna, this is something it's individual to the company, it's subjective to the company, what they want to do and what they don't want to do. But are there any rules or regulations or policies in place generally for companies to follow when it comes to mental well-being?
I don't think we have rules and regulations in the way that we might expect. Just so you know, like there was, I think, a survey done of, let's say, 1.2 million companies that exist in India. Only about 1,000 of them have structured mental well-being services being offered to companies. So we are a long way away in terms of offering um, offering the kind of services that we need. And I think I was very interested by the point that you made about about one of the co-founders was depressed, and therefore we got the counseling services in. I think it's really important that the leadership actually talks about their own vulnerabilities when it comes to mental health, and if they are open about it, then it becomes a lot easier for people who are down the line to share their own issues. Because I often find that what employers do is they're like, okay, we will stress you out with everything possible, and then we'll tell you to go and take a yoga class, and that's really not fair, is it? Like, you can't leave everything to the individual employee to deal with. So you burden them with all the stress and have all the deadlines. So when the leadership is actually sharing their own issues and their own vulnerabilities and their own challenges, then the culture becomes such that you can then have those conversations, So I think rules and regulations are one aspect of it, but it's really the culture that is important in terms of leadership recognizing that this is an issue.
Right, and the culture is set by the leadership. How a company functions, the leaders decide that, and when they are open to conversations, when they are open to taking help when required, and when they are open about it, I think employees just follow suit. But this is also a question that I was wondering, because sometimes, like, Aparna said, employers put in these things in place where there are mental well-being opportunities that employees can take. But do you feel like they do that? Like, when you bring in a third party or a therapist or somebody who can take care of their well-being, do employees use that service? Do you feel or there are barriers to that? Anyone?
I think they're quite low, right? The utilization rates of all of these services. I think there's still a lot of inhibitions and barriers about going and speaking to them and making it. I don't think also HR people often get the feedback that our managers are coming to us saying that somebody below them has an issue. We don't know how to respond. So, knowing how to have this conversation, knowing how to be a mental health ally is as important as saying that I have a mental health condition and I want to be able to talk about it. So I think, that's all part of psychological safety, right? Like creating that atmosphere where people can talk about their condition. So being an ally and is really very, very important. I've experienced that in my own life when I've talked to my employers and my colleagues about my mental health condition, about being bipolar. They were very open about it, and that was a game changer for me. So
right.
It's very important to be able to have that conversation.
Yes, yes. And that's what I want to understand also. Like, Suma, what do you do if an employee of yours comes to you and says they're struggling with something and they don't directly just approach the HR or the service that you have in place? Then how do you redirect them? How do you help them out?
So we may have multiple levels of conversations, different type people talking to them for different. If it is a skill issue, somebody may be talking to them that trying to enable that, but somebody or somebody who's close to them can understand what is going on personally. Maybe that is a challenge, and then slowly try and redirect them to and bring in somebody who's already taken the service. So they have already experienced it and they've seen a shift. So they become the spokesperson for that.
Person.
But even so, I have seen that there is still an inhibition and they don't really take it up. So there could be other ways that you have to think about, because your culture will be different from another culture. Maybe you need a different intervention. So we are thinking of different ways of that. We are identifying, okay, if certain people have certain types of problem, maybe we can create small groups of them and speak about among each other and see where it leads. But the idea is, but the first and foremost, the safety and the safe space and somebody being able to hold that space, right? That is more important. Like that allow all of those emotions to come in and be held. So that is more important.
Um, is it just me or is she breaking out a little?
Yeah, I'm not able to hear her
Um,
clearly.
okay. So,
She
what she
just
was,
broke.
what,
She just broke. I think
okay,
she had just lost connection.
right, right. So, I'll just quickly summarize what Suma was trying to say. She was talking about how it is really important that in the first go to just provide a safe space for them to really come up to you and talk to them, and then you can, sort of redirect them to the right person for the job. And always bringing in people who've had that experience, who've, taken the help and seen a change. They are, learning, leading from experience, from other people's examples. I think that's one way to do it. Tarun, you also said, I read your comment talking about just providing, just listening to them. And anything else you'd like to add to that? What else can, as employers, we can do for them?
I think, like Suma mentioned, most of the times when you actually like just sit across the table and let their heart out, I think they actually tell you what they're going through, and sometimes it can be difficult for the person to tell it directly to you, the employer, but
Mm-hmm.
there is somebody who they are actually close to in the team.
Mm-hmm.
He or she can actually help you get that message that this is what the team was facing, or this is what that guy is facing, or that particular girl is facing. So that is where you take a conscious step to rectify those things, right? So I think
Mm-hmm.
with respect to uh, specifically talking about my team, I think each time we talked to them, I think we got a new learning for ourselves, and I think we acted upon that accordingly. And I think more than
Mm-hmm.
that, it's just that people, when you listen to them, you actually can find a solution for them, right? And then somebody also
Mm-hmm.
mentioned in the comment like, what happens when there are a couple of colleagues who are not in good terms or just fighting with each other. So
Right,
we
right.
even had two of our best colleagues not able to gel and bond with each other because of whatever
Mm-hmm.
reason. We actually made them sit in front of each other at least 2 to 3 times to kind of
Mm-hmm.
resolve things. They tried, they did it multiple times as well, but in the end they couldn't do it because of some reason. Because two people just cannot gel, can't gel. Sorry, but what
Mm-hmm.
we did as a solution, we tried doing that was we just made them sit like in front of each other,
Mm-hmm.
kind of help them understand what is this person's point of view, what is this person's point of view, and kind of be the neutral judge
Mm-hmm.
and give them a solution to okay.
Right, right. It's basic conflict management that we do, which works really well offline. But Aparna, now that the hybrid models come in, companies are now following maybe 2 days online and 3 days offline. So how do you resolve conflicts then when members have to work online? What do they do?
Yeah, I think with hybrid and when it comes to conflict,
Hmm.
I would also agree that first of all, conflicts should be resolved offline as much as possible because I think
Mm-hmm.
it's very difficult to do that in an online format. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's very important when going in for any sort of whether you go in for a fully remote or fully in office or a offline hybrid model that you should communicate with clarity as to what you expect from your employees. So
Mm-hmm.
to resolve issues related to trust, for example, like, oh, that person
Mm-hmm.
is we are in a hybrid model, but that person is working too much from home. So
Mm-hmm.
to not to have those kind of issues happening. The
Mm-hmm.
companies which I think have been successful in what they're doing have been very clear with their employees that look, we are a pretty much fully in office model. Maybe one day a week you can work from home, or we are a pretty much fully remote office, and this is the way we want to work. So employees are clear that this is what they're getting. These are the
Mm-hmm.
expectations, and they can align themselves to those expectations. I think the trouble a lot happens when there isn't that clarity, you know, about how
Right.
exactly we're going to work, what is expected from you, when are you expected to
Mm-hmm.
be in office, when are you not expected to be in office,
Mm-hmm.
so, and I think the other thing just to remember though is that people really value flexibility. Like that's the
Mm-hmm.
biggest thing. That's one of the big reasons why women are not going back into the workforce as they were, so many of them have been leaving recently. Young people really value it. Older people also, much older people also value it. So I think that this is something that is here to stay. So I think clarity on flexibility and offering that as part of
Mm-hmm.
the package is something that I would urge employers to look at.
Right, and this is something I've heard from my clients also, the ability to just sort of work on their own time as long as targets are being met. But I want to understand how sustainable that is, how easy it is to offer flexibility to your employees.
I mean, let somebody else answer that, and I can probably add.
Yes.
Just offer it, because, and
Mm-hmm.
but set the expectation. We are all adults here. We're all responsible people.
Mm-hmm.
We are looking for ownership of your work and flexibility. So the flexibility is there. It is for you to have the freedom that you want, but it doesn't should not be abused, right? So you may want to have some sort of check-in at some point in time to know that it is not. But usually it will show up. If it is being abused, it will show up. In work, somewhere it will show up. So you have to be like smart enough to know that, okay, here now you're being abused, so you get in and try and see what is the issue. But often the problem is not there, that the flexibility is being abused. That's not the problem. The problem is people don't know when to start and when to stop work. So work days can go from any time to any time. That is burnout. Then they don't know how to deal with it, right? That is what, like, we have to kind of come in and educate them about that. Listen, office means, okay, you can at least go and there is a ceremony that you're getting dressed and going, and but in an online situation you need to build some sort of a ritual for yourself, know when to stop. This is something that most people are unable to translate into their lives, and there needs to be an intervention for it.
Absolutely. I think that separation between the professional and the personal, what work from home has done is, on the same bed you're sleeping, on the same bed you're working, on the same bed you're eating. So there is absolutely no change of space that is there, and that is something often we recommend our clients, that when you're working from home, have a different space. So you physically move from one space to the other. You also, change your mindset that now you're off work. And 9 to 5 provided the structure, right? 9 to 5, you have to be in this certain mode, and after 5 o'clock, you're out of that. So it had its advantages in that sense. But yes, Tarun, starting and stopping, having a correct time for start work and stopping work. What do you think about that?
I think it definitely should be there, because I've seen so many people, not in just my team, or uh, hopefully not in my team, because there are none of them who were just working very late hours, apart from just a couple of campaigns if they had to go live. I've seen so many people in my society, who, let's say, are working in some great corporate companies. They said that there is no boundary. You just are working till 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Just open your laptop and just do it, or just check your emails on the phone. So I think there should be like a switch on and a switch off mode. Like, specifically if you are in this industry of digital marketing, people expect you to work a little longer than usual, because maybe you have to take a post live, or maybe you have to do something else. So I would say, just be very candid with your team, and let them be as well as candid as possible, that this is what I'll be working from, and I'll complete my due course of hours. And if this is an additional work which I need to do, I'll do it. If it's just a post, but I don't need to be contacted by clients after a specific time. And that's exactly what we put on our contracts as well. That we do not expect to be connected or getting a call from you after this particular time of hours. And I think more than anything, one great thing about flexibility is that you can work on your own time frame. But the drawback is that, let's say, for example, you're working from 10 to 7, and I start work at 12, and we both need to coordinate for a certain amount of work. That gets lost. So I think there should be a fixed number of hours. This is not what I did. This is what a friend of mine did. Much before COVID, he became hybrid. So a specific number of hours were fixed for the entire team to work. Plus minus 2-3 hours they could work in a different timing only. So I think that can be a more, I would say, appropriate solution to providing flexibility. That इतने hours में सबको available होना ही है. उसके आगे पीछे आपको जो करना है आप कर लीजिए, personal work अपना जो भी है.
Right. And I think that just comes from experience. The more you work with your employees, the more you understand their needs. I think companies need to be just more open to hearing them. And if they're doing that, I think it contributes a lot to their mental well-being, and I think the employer's well-being as well. Employers are also very satisfied that as long as work is being done, we're okay, and everybody's happy. So we also have this one question, and Aparna, I would like your views on it, about dealing with burnout and performance pressure. What do employees do when it comes to, because there are no fixed timings and sometimes employees tend to overwork. They'll pick up timings that, don't really work for them. So how do they deal with that?
No, so I think we have to look at is it burnout because of the pressures being put in because of the organization? Are the expectations too high? The hours too punishing? Are we talking about that? Then ultimately, in the long run, then if an employee is feeling that pressure is too much, they're not going to stay, right? So it's not a sustainable model for the employees or for the employer to have that kind of situation. I think we've all been through 2 years of a lot of that, right? Things have been quite difficult on the economic front. People have been worried about their jobs. People have been concerned
Right.
about there have been a lot of job losses and insecurities related to all of that. So I think that as I said earlier, like there's no kind of band-aid to it. You either have to make it easier for employees to manage the situation, but if you are in a leadership position, it's a very fine balance between saying I want to keep my organization going. My organization is struggling right now because of economic conditions, and at the same time, it's I know that my employees are having a tough time of it, but I'm not quite sure what to do about it. So this is a difficult situation for a lot of employees, and I think the only thing we can hope is that things improve such that dilemma doesn't exist for leadership as much as it does even for the lower people down the line.
Right. And part of that, recently the new labor laws have come in and they have provided the option of a 4-day work week. You increase the number of hours of the day in the day, but you reduce the number of days in a week. And I want to know, all of you, what you think, what your take on that is, and how sustainable that is in the Indian market. Suma?
I'm not terribly, I'm not a fan of this idea at all. 12 hours of work in a day, I don't think it is not, how, if you, and most of us are doing something creative, even if you are not, even in the, most boring, tedious kind of jobs, there's also innovation happening. And how much innovation can happen in 12 hours every day? Like, it's not, I don't buy into that at all. And then three days, I mean, there's going to be a long phase where we'll actually transition into that kind of model. But even still, I don't know if the best work will come out like that. I'm not convinced that, the best innovations will come out by a 12-hour, but and a 3-day break or whatever it is, 3-day break is sounding very good. But will you be happy with the work that you create? I'm not so sure. So I'm not a fan of this idea.
Right. No, that is a good point to think about. I mean, when you increase the hours, like it's still essentially the same amount of work, but just more pressure. From the way I look at it. Tarun, what do you think? It'll work?
So I think, I've heard so many people say this, and I'm not even lying, I'm not even kidding. यार 4 दिन में काम तो वैसे हो ही जाता है. 5वां दिन तो हम लोग सिर्फ drag कर लेते हैं. Like people are just on Fridays. If you see the vibe of people, they're just looking at what they will be doing in the evening. They don't really after lunch. It's just a vibe is a little much more easier. They're just there, and they're just there because they have to be there, right? So I believe if you do not increase the number of hours working in a day and keep it same, and probably let's say try with alternate Fridays off, not directly giving all Fridays off. See how that works, and maybe then see how your clients are also taking it, because like Indians are very not prone to change. We can't like adopt to change very easily. Specifically the other side of people, right? The client side of people, not the team. They'll be more than happy. Right? But I think maybe in every work day it said that on an average, any individual, whether it's you, me, anybody, they have at least I think minimum 2 to 3 hours which are non-working hours. They're not doing anything. They're just stalling time. And if that amount of hours they work, they can easily complete it in like 4 days, or let's say 4.5 days, or so to say 5 days, and take a break. So I think can we start as an experiment and see how the client is responding, and then take a conscious call depending on your personal teams and your personal clients. What are they doing? What are they saying?
Right.
I
I've
think,
seen that, Yeah. Yes,
sorry, I
please.
was just going to say, like, I think it depends so much on the industry. Like, for a sales
Mm.
organization, which are people going into the field, or for people who are in manufacturing industries, I mean, they're already working, many of them 6 days a week, so to have them to think of 4 days a week and to, like, people who are in the field and who are going to a sales organization, they just
Mm.
cannot cover the market in 4 days if they were covering it in 5 or 6 days, right? So I
Mm.
think that we are looking at certain industries where it could work, but I think that broadly as a whole, as a country, I'm not sure how it would work for everyone.
Yeah, I think you're right
Right,
because
right.
so many industries they can't actually survive on 4 days. They can't. I know so many of my
Mm.
friends were in sales and like hardcore sales. They have to cover certain areas of the city. Let's say Mumbai. It's impossible to do it in 4 days. Like I completely agree with you. Will not
Mm.
be possible.
Yeah.
So it's more of a subjective, conscious call for each company to take, depending on which industry they're in and how their employees function. Right, right. We're also almost at the end of our live, so I'm just going to quickly see if there are any questions we missed out. If there is anybody in the audience who has any questions that were about burnout we addressed, about conflicts, and about having mental health days. Performance pressure. Yes, I think we've so far covered all the questions that have come up in the live. So to just sort of sum up our discussion for today, if we've talked about, having flexibility, but also finding certain start and stop time. So maintaining boundaries for employees to have a better mental well-being, being open as employers to open to listen and to guide them, and bringing in maybe mental health partners like the mood space, and encouraging employees by leading via example to show that this is effective and that can work. So any parting thoughts that you just sort of want to say to everybody listening to us, and as employers and people working in the field, what would you like to say? Whoever would like to go first. I don't want to like pick and choose anymore.
Aparna, go ahead.
Okay. No, I would just like to say that, mental health should be seen as something as strategic when you're
Mm-hmm.
looking at HR as anything else, any other intervention that you do, right? There's so many other interventions when it comes to like performance appraisals and other ways that we invest in people's well-being. So I think mental health should be seen there should be budgets for it, there should be resources allocated to it, there should be a strategy for it, there should be an intangible and a tangible strategy for it. So that would be my hope. I'm personally doing a lot of work on workplace mental health. Anybody who wants to work with me and engage with me on that, I'd be happy to hear from them.
Very nice.
Thank you for that, Aparna.
Okay, can I just, sorry, there's somebody asked me a question on bipolar and is specifically wanting a session on bipolar. So can I just answer that question?
Sure, please,
Yeah.
please.
So he or she said that is bipolar curable? So I don't think there is a cure for bipolar, but there's many ways to hack it. Of course, I would suggest that you read my book, which has a lot of ideas, but you can also find me on social media if you want to have a conversation.
And please reach out to a therapist as
Yes,
a
of
mental health
course.
professional.
Absolutely,
Definitely.
absolutely. That goes without saying. Yeah.
Right. Yes. Suma, you have any thoughts about our discussion and what companies should now do moving forward, and how you are working going forward?
So one of the things that that came up during one of the sessions from Mood Space is nutritionists. A doctor had come and addressed our team. Something has
Mm-hmm.
stayed in my head. What he said, that Dr. Umesh, he said that when you are having a fever, or you take crocin, sleep for 2 days, and then when it doesn't get better, you will go to the doctor, right? So if you
Mm-hmm.
are having a meltdown, you've yelled at somebody for a couple of days or a week or so, treat it like that. That you can just book a session and just speak to them, and half an hour, and clear it out. Maybe you don't need therapy or anything like that, but you may get
Mm-hmm.
some sort of insight to deal with it. And that was like a game-changing statement for me, that you treat it exactly like that. And that if we can make that a common understanding within the company, I think we would have done
Mm-hmm.
our job.
Absolutely. We've always promote the fact that mental health is as important as physical health. And if you would do anything to protect ourselves physically, why not mentally? So yes, that's a very, very, very important take. And like Aparna said, to just allocate resources so that we give it the importance that it deserves. Tarun, your
Yeah.
parting
So
thoughts.
yes. So I think I really believe in this thought that if you really take care of your teammates, your employees. I actually don't like the word employees, so I use teammates more often. So I
Mm-hmm.
think if you take care of them, everything else will be taken care of. I think they are they are the ones who are running the entire show more than you. I feel it's because of them that you
Mm-hmm.
are where you are, and the team and the company is where it is. I think if imagine if one of them or two of them are not really feeling their best, they'll not be able to give their best, and it's going
Mm-hmm.
to affect the overall performance. I think I just want to say, if I had to sum up the entire thing in just one sentence, I would say you take care of your employees, they'll take care of everything else.
And that,
Brilliant.
I think, is the best thought to end this live on. If you take care of your employees, they'll take care of everything else. And thank you so much, everybody, for being here, to the audience, to our panelists. Thank you, Suma, Aparna, and Tarun, for taking out the time for having this discussion, engaging with us. We've all learned so much, and I think our audience would also has developed some insight, and hopefully we see better changes moving forward in in the workplace for our employees, for everybody. So thank you so much, everybody.
Oh, fine.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much, guys.
Like,
Thank you.
great being here. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye.